Radio. Gridiron 360. Not much. We are doing a little more of our comment ball. This will be 5.0. We're going to address some comments we got on our NFL free agency cast on the AFC North and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, thank you to everybody that has been listening, commenting. Keep it up. Push it out there. Subscribe to the page. Facebook, like us. iTunes, if you go that route. Let people know. We have a couple gentlemen that made some good comments for us to react to, Mr. Dave. First off, we'd like to thank Mr. Douglas Hinrickson, and secondly, Mr. Zac Iseman. They brought up some comments on that cast. Dave's going to go through them, and we'll address them and respond. And we appreciate it, guys. Dave, what did Mr. Douglas Hinrickson, what were a couple of things he said for us?
Well, he corrected my my inaccuracy about Minkah. Let me say where I got that from. And sometimes speaking fast and understand over a matter of 4 or 5 days, we did 32 teams.
Yep.
He mentioned that Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton both played in the slot. I had mentioned that Minkah played in the slot. Now, understand where I was getting that from, kind of going back to the trade. If you'll remember one of the things that came out, what he wanted when he wanted to get out of Miami was that Miami wanted to use him as a versatile player. They wanted to be able to move him from coming down in the box, moving from slot to corner, playing safety. He didn't like that. He wanted to play in one spot, and he had specifically mentioned that he was looking at, being able to play in the slot when he wanted that trade. And I kind of got it in my head, about that. And I remember watching him because I remember when they played Miami and they took a 14-0 early deficit. You and I watched that together here.
Yep.
Ended up coming back and winning that game, but that he wanted that. But he did end up last year. I was corrected, so I appreciate you correcting my mistakes. He played a vast majority as the high safety, the free safety for them. Certainly played very well, made a lot of plays on the ball. It was a good ultimately what I guess I was trying to say was that he's a good piece for them going forward.
Great piece. He did some unbelievable things. He totally came in and revamped that defense. He gave them life, I felt like.
Yeah, and
some pick sixes right out the gate. And to your point, Douglas, yes, you're correct. The slot corner or the nickel corner is 1-2 Mike Hilton, Cameron Sutton.
And you don't, and just so I can say you don't have a first round pick because of that. So there was, it was certainly a cost. I'm not saying it wasn't worth it. It was just a cost to that. But you did correct me, and you were right, and I was wrong. So I'm a big boy.
You're wrong.
I'll take my licks there for that one, and thanks again for doing that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I don't think it changes the way that he played and the effectiveness with which he played. So that's probably all we need to hit on, Douglas. But love it because I love getting corrected.
Yes, dude. We really appreciate it, my friend, and you're absolutely right. The bottom line is this. Like you said, they basically traded their first round pick this year, or they did, for this guy. So if you want to look at it like, they got Minkah as a first round pick.
Yep.
That's pretty damn good.
Still under a rookie
pretty
deal.
Good.
So they got him for a few years under the rookie deal. That was his last year was his second year, right?
Second, I
yeah, because
think.
he came out with Derwin.
Yep.
So last year was his second year. So again, he played well. It's a good addition. There is some youth on this defense.
They tagged Dupree. They bring in, they got Derek Watt for fullback. They got Chris Wormley at D tackle that they brought in from Baltimore. They agreed to a 2-year deal with Steven Wisniewski on the offensive line. I think one of the bigger ones, and in that Pittsburgh cast, you were mentioning, finding weapons on the outside to throw to.
Yep.
We also brought up Vance McDonald and the lack of performance, at least at the start of the year. I think you started to see a little bit from him at the end of the year, which is what you expected all year. But that said, since that cast, 2-year, $12 million deal signing Eric Ebron, tight end from the Colts. So is that the extra weapon that they're going to have? Are they going to try to roll with, maybe a Vance McDonald and an Ebron on the line, and then just have, your Juju and, Washington or whoever else they're going to throw out there? I don't know. Obviously, they did. I'm not saying they hurt us, but they did bring a weapon in for Roethlisberger, who'll be back, or whoever it may end up being, to add to the mix in terms of their aerial attack. So Good things for them there. I expect more from that. I expect some receiving action to come. And, based on the way things are going, and we said in that cast, they're a little tight in free agency with
cap
in their cap space. So, this might I would anticipate a receiver being picked up at some point, and this is a deep receiver class in the draft.
Yeah, I'd agree. So what I want to do, though, is because we're about to get into the depth of this, is read the other comment that we received.
Yes, that was from Mr. Zac Iseman. You want me to do it? Or
yeah, go ahead. Good. Yep.
All right. So Zach wrote in, and he took us to the woodshed. So all good, man. Good, bad, and different. Again, we're not beat writers for every team. We know our stuff. At least we feel like it. But he said, y'all really don't know much about the Steelers, do you? You're trying to be unbiased, I understand, but this just seems like you looked up stuff on Bleacher Report and shat out your opinions from that in this video. Thanks, Zach. First of all, Bleacher Report.
I just want you to know I was sitting in a normal chair and I was not wearing a diaper. There was absolutely no shatting going on during that telecast.
No shatting. I like it. Maybe a little shark. No, listen, first of all, Bleacher Report. Yes, we look at that. We look at a lot, but we don't just look at that. We look at a lot of things going on out there to try before we jump out here. We're not just.
Well, and let's just clarify. Bleacher Report ties together news information from everywhere. Now, I understand Bleacher Report has gotten into the opinion game, and they are actually publishing their own articles.
Yeah.
But that's not all of it.
Right.
So,
right. And before Dave and I started this adventure, some of the early Gridiron 360 podcasts that I did were with a few other folks till I found my cohort, Mr. Dave. One of them was with a friend of mine, Miss Lee Zweck, who is from Western PA, I believe Western PA, huge Steeler fan, okay? Yes, she's a girl. She knows more about the Steelers than most guys I know that are Steelers fans. Absolutely fanatical about her Pittsburgh Steelers. So maybe I'm not as knowledgeable as her, but my point is if we can bring in sources like that, like I did early on, we do. And you guys out there jumping in, commenting, interacting with us, hell, this is fun, man. I want it. Take me to the woodshed, my friend. Take it to us, Zach.
all right, let me.
I do think we know a little more about the Steelers than you think we do. But again, we're rolling through. We did 32 teams free agency in like 4 or 5 days. So if we sounded a little off, apologies.
All right, no, I'm answering. No.
No? Okay.
I'm not apologizing.
Don't apologize.
I'm not apologizing.
I'm gonna still.
But I'm gonna accept your opinion. So let's kind of. I'm gonna break this down a little bit. You don't know very much about the Steelers, do you? Okay, opinions vary, I guess. But let's get to the next thing. You're trying to be unbiased. Well, let me tell you something. I am unbiased because I don't really care Steelers one way or the other. You're a fan, clearly, and that's cool because I'm a fan of the Bears. I'm not unbiased about the Bears. When I talk about them on my own, I try to be realistic about them, but I'm still a fan. That's why we started this. We're fans. Mm-hmm. We're not idiots, but we are fans, which you understand. So, yes, I am unbiased. I'm not trying to be. I am unbiased. Now, you said the stuff about Bleacher Report and shout out your opinions. I guess my question is, your comment was I was wrong. You got to tell me what I'm wrong about, I guess, what I have to understand. So I'm going to kind of break down and look at the Steelers. Like, I'll give you some examples. You brought in Vanette last year, whatever, from Seattle. You traded a 5th-round pick. He just walked on you. Not sure what you were doing there. You lost a 5th-round pick for a guy that had 128 yards on 13 catches last year.
Woohoo!
So there were some challenges there. James Washington did not step forward. Juju Smith-Schuster had a weaker year than he had the year before. Again, I understand you had a quarterback problem, but you got Big Ben. Now, I ask you, what have you done with Big Ben over the last 3-4 years that is eye-popping and changing the game? You got an older quarterback. There's nothing. And you don't know how he's going to come back from this injury. You know that he's got the head to play the game. Just saw
know that he's
picture
got
of him from the coronavirus. Apparently, he's growing his beard like a
madman. He's got a burly beard.
Yeah,
and he's putting out, what is that? Was that on the gram? Messages about the coronavirus. Big Ben.
So here's what your receiving core. I mean, Dante Moncrief. You had Deontay Thompson, right?
Yeah.
Williams.
I'll find it. Go ahead.
But anyway, you got limited production out of your passing game.
Deontay Johnson,
not Thompson. Johnson.
Ryan Switzer.
Right. Again, we're talking about a small guy that came out of North Carolina. He's your kind of, if you're going to draw a picture of your typical short, possession receiver guy, that's it. He fits in the mold of an Adam Humphries. I'm going with your Clemson guys.
Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter.
And Switzer did a lot of return stuff in the return game for him. And, I know they tried to get him in and have him more active in the receiving game. But for the most part, he was more of a return guy.
Yeah. And
you also brought in Deion Kane, one of my Clemson guys from Indianapolis. And I think he's really a good player, tall, fast. He has problems sometimes catching the ball. And there's a reason he was picked up late, and I know Colts fans were excited about having him, but he never really saw many games, and when he did, he wasn't super effective. Love my boys from my school, and Deion, he had his great moments at Clemson, but I don't know that he's an answer.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I talked about your linebacking core. If you look at your linebacking core, your starters, a Florida State guy, love Vince Williams, turned out to be a hell of a player. His brother was the real big flash, Carlos Williams, coming into Florida State. Super athletic, more athletic than Vince ever was, but Vince was a tackling machine. And Vince has made himself a great career in Pittsburgh, and his brother is out of the league. So I know a bit about him. Devin Bush was certainly a high-level inside guy. You got outside guys in Bud Dupree. You got T.J. Watt. I don't know that they're elite. They're good. Bud Dupree is certainly on the higher end of good to very good. But your depth took a hit, and there's no way around it. I mean, I look at the guys you lost. So you've got some of that. And here is your challenge. While Cincinnati is still not to Pittsburgh's level talent-wise, they are moving forward. Cleveland sold the farm, sold it again this year, but if that happens to turn up for them, that's a team that could be still emerging. I'm not sure they will. If you heard my Cleveland podcast, I'm always iffy with them. That's a franchise that's a little bit like Detroit in that somehow they figure out to never put it all together. But you guys, and you got Baltimore, who is ahead of you, and there's no way around it. You're going to have to suck it up. Now, I know Pittsburgh Steelers fans. I lived in Cannonsburg, PA for a little while, which, is in Washington County, just south of Pittsburgh. My parents had a house next to you. If you're a Steelers fan, you'll know this name, Andy Russell. He was on the Steel Curtain linebacking core, didn't get the pub because of Jack Ham and Jack Lambert, but Andy Russell played there right with him. So I know the passion. I know that this has had a long history of very good ownership with the dad.
Rooney.
But the simple fact is your division is catching up on you.
Yeah.
And you didn't have as much room to make plays. So if you want to tell me what I don't know, I'm good with it. But don't tell me I don't know without telling me what you know. Because
you got
to participate.
You know that I know.
Yep.
A Norton.
And Zach, I'm not knocking you. I just want to hear. I want to hear what I don't know, and I thank you to our other buddy that told me something I misspoke about and didn't speak right, and
Douglas.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So, but I will say this: I get it. Pittsburgh always thinks, and they have for a long time. I mean, I look at back when they had the Kevin Greens and Lloyd, and they were able to move those guys along and keep them, but then they lost some talent over time and still produced a really good team. This is a team that knows how to recycle. Again, I go back to good ownership,
solid program,
but you're not elite, and you're not elite with Big Ben coming out. Something's going to have to move, and I think particularly on offense. I like Eric Ebron, but Eric Ebron never lived up to what he was drafted at, and he's not a world beater. He's good. He's talented, but you might get games where he plays really well, but you're going to have games where he disappears, because I watched him on the Colts last year, and he did the same thing. And he did it in Detroit.
And is Ben going to stay healthy the whole year?
Yeah,
I mean, the past few years, last year was a lengthier injury, but he's always had a few, and he is tough and hard to bring down, but he is getting older, and there are younger guys that continue to flow into the league that, what happens if you end up with a quarterback scenario? And, and looking in the draft and free agency, or the fact that they don't have a lot to play with in free agency, and some of the comments we made, look, defensively, I think fairly solid across the board. I still believe that, and they've got some good players on the offensive line. I still believe that they're going to try to get some skill weapons. I think that's what they need. Like, receiver, I think, is huge. And I even think I made mention of running back. I know they got Connor, and they've got Jalen Samuels, and they took Benny Snell last year. He's I think the key to that whole thing. If Snell is starting to really step up, then they could maybe hold off on looking at maybe something like that. I still think he could be really good and has a lot in front of him, but it's, it was tough to really see that Pittsburgh offense the way I think everybody might have wanted to, fans or not fans. It wasn't what you expected. We're not talking about a Pittsburgh offense in the past that was, even with AB and Le'Veon, they weren't like the Chiefs, where it was just like they move at a pace that's so fast and just get it down the field. But they knew how to operate surgically and get going down there. But we haven't seen that.
Yeah.
And the league offensively is changing, and there are teams, again, a la Baltimore, with certain games that just ran away with games. Like, you can't let it happen. And with what we saw last year, or maybe even the past couple of years, like, it's the offense for Pittsburgh is not even at the level it was where they were surgical, and they need to get it back there.
So, I mean, again, they had injuries. Is there a chance for this team to recover? But even with, the health, and I know James Conner, because he was my fantasy guy 2 years ago. I kept him this year as my keeper, and he was injured a lot, and, between concussions and other things. But they also saw their injuries. I don't think their backfield is a disaster. But you got to be able to push the ball downfield. And let's think about this. Some of these guys they've drafted, they gave up on Artie Burns. He's currently going to the Bears. Yep. And they got him on the cheap. And he's going to be he's going to compete for our second corner spot. But he was a first-round pick, and it was a miss. He was a miss out of Miami. He just was. So,
and this one more maybe for Zach. You want a, you're saying unbiased, okay? So, look. Bud Dupree and T.J. Watt on, coming off the edge, okay? I'll be a little biased. I'm a New York Giant fan. I'd love to have that. You're very fortunate, okay? Say what you will. That's young, good talent. I'd love to have it in New York. You have it, okay? So there is some and some of the pieces on your offensive, a Marquise Pouncey and a David Castro alone. I'd love to
Villanueva.
Have that.
I like their left tackle.
Villanueva. They have Wisniewski in here now that they brought in from Kansas City, I believe. I mean, like, that's some good moves, some solid moves. I think the Giants have done some good things in free agency. I mean, there's solid moves there for Pittsburgh that leaves me as a Giants fan like, man, I wish I had that. So that might be a little more biased, but it's in your favor. So I guess, listen, guys, Douglas, Zach, we appreciate you. Love it. Good, bad, or indifferent. We like to hear from the fans. And the ones I feel that are even the most scathing comments are coming from people that are true fans, that it means a lot to. So that's who this is for. So thank you.
Yeah, and again, as I said, Zach, I'm not going to apologize for, I will admit my mistakes. I'm not going to apologize, but you don't apologize either, man. Just tell me. I want to know what I don't know, because your input makes this a hell of a lot better. So thank you.
That's right. So thank you, guys. That's the comment ball. What did I say? 5.0 for that one?
Yep.
That's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're going to get to more of your comments on the next one. But thanks again. Keep them coming, and we'll see you next time, as always,
on the gridiron.
Peace!